Presenting Naomi Secker, Global Managing Director at the Shared Services and Outsourcing Network, popularly referred to as the SSON, the largest and most respected forum for executives responsible for delivering optimized business services. Naomi has spent her career developing cutting-edge content, introducing new products, while cultivating and nurturing business relationships, especially in the shared services domain. Presenting along with Naomi is Barbara Hodge. Barbara is the Global Digital Content Editor at SSON. As the voice of SSON, she ensures that the published content reflects current trends and opportunities to help SSO leaders continuously drive performance. We welcome Naomi Secker and Barbara Hodge to present the paper on Consolidating Global Payroll and Shared Services with a focus on the long tail of global organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, this paper, authored by the SSON and sponsored by Neeyamo, will be available to all our guests. Please remember to check out the session notes.
Hi and welcome. Thank you so much for joining SSON session on Consolidating Global Payroll and Shared Services. And thank you to Neeyamo for inviting us to be part of your event. My name's Naomi Secker, Global Managing Director with the Shared Services and Outsourcing Network, and I am joined by my colleague, Barbara Hodge. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you, Naomi. Very nice to be here as well. I'm the Global Editor at the Shared Services and Outsourcing Network.
So we are so excited to be here today to talk about the growing need for consolidating payroll in shared services and global business services environments, the challenges of running long-tail country operations, and tips on how to optimize global payroll for the new future of work. And the information in this presentation are highlights from a recent industry report that Neeyamo and the SSON partnered together on. We wanted to address the shift that's happening between employer and employee that's brought about the most significant transformation of workplace culture really in living memory. Everyone's now focused on the future of work with shared services at the heart, and payroll represents the largest spend for organizations. So this conference, this content is very, very timely. Just before we get started, 2 housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And also feel free to connect with Barbara and myself. Our information is right there on the console. So let's go to the next slide.
So the new future of work, to win the marketplace, you must first win the workplace. I think all of us on this call today understand the relevance of this statement better now than we did 2 years ago. Certainly, we've gone through tremendous changes. Future of work is real in all organizations, and shared services are playing a leading role in optimizing operations through new workforce strategies. As Naomi mentioned, payroll is the largest spend for organizations, and what's critical is not just to get it right, but to get it as good as it can possibly be, and that's what today's presentation is going to be about. Let's move to the next screen.
So here we look at which services do you provide. And I just think it's so exciting to see SSOs continue to add to their service offerings. You know, Barbara and I have both been with the SSON for over a decade. And every year when we look at this slide, as we get more data, it continues to expand. So this data that we're looking at is from our 2021 survey. You can see the expansive list. It's growing. We were just looking at our 2022 data that we're about to release at the end of January, and already we can confirm that 3/4 of shared services organizations are focused on increasing their scope. And so SSOs are embracing payroll, yes. But still, nearly half have not yet taken the step to truly optimize. And so this presents an enormous opportunity to bring payroll into shared services, take advantage of standardization and the many other benefits we're going to talk about. And not doing so means fragmented and risky operations, and obviously no business can afford to do that. So let's move to the next slide.
So the spotlight, how do we integrate the long tail? The traditional approach for multinationals is that the lion's share of operations is generally based in a few core countries, and that remaining activities are distributed over many or numerous smaller countries. So that's the long tail we refer to. The challenge is that there's a true lack of country-specific knowledge regarding language, regulations, legislation in these countries, the long tail countries. There's generally a higher fixed cost per head, and traditionally it's not cost effective to set HR up in these smaller operations. In fact, the tail segment can be so long that it becomes difficult to keep track of the complex regulations that govern all these different countries. So we could think of all of this as white space. And the challenge is that this white space in HR services is a potential threat to operations. So what are the costs of getting this wrong? Well, they're significant, and it's not just about financial penalties, inefficiencies in processing payroll and mistakes, and unreliable employee data. It's also very much about the negative experience this can cause and the impact this has on brand, your brand. The truth is that in many of these smaller country operations, it's already a struggle to get recruitment and retention right. And so any mistakes associated with payroll obviously only exacerbate that. So faced with an increasing global presence and the stringent compliance challenges that go with that, leading enterprises are redefining payroll as a strategic vertical in their operations. This calls for an approach that allies technology, people, and process, and it's something we're seeing across all enterprises. Shared services takes this challenge head on. The model is built on process standardization and transparency, and it's increasingly underpinned by intelligent technologies and automation. The truth is there is no better model for a service like payroll than shared services, which have long perfected delivering complex services and processes to far-flung locations. So let's move on to the next slide.
So here we're looking at evolving technology, right? So based on this, again, is our 2021 survey, we can see already 95% of the market is already automating. We've seen the benefits, we've witnessed the positive experience on people experience. We see shared services organizations increasingly moving towards fully automated environments. And certainly the disruptions to payroll experienced in the early days of the pandemic has made a clear case for increasing the level of automation to build global business resiliency across borders. Listed on the right, we've got 10 key points that we need to solve with payroll technologies. And the good news is that the latest technologies solutions are making it much simpler to manage global payroll on a holistic basis. It's cloud-based capabilities, real-time reporting, and the ability to have one consolidated view of payroll across all countries is really the key to seamless operations. And, I've certainly been really impressed by Neeyamo's capabilities in all of these areas. So, truly exciting to see how far we have come. We are living in a world in shared services and in every industry where it's all about experience management, and getting this right is absolutely necessary. So let's move to the next slide.
So why consolidate global payroll in shared services? First of all, the need for truly reliable human data has probably never been greater than it is in an environment where most of your employees are probably still working remotely. You yourself may be working remotely. Offices are virtual, and you've likely recruited new staff over the last 18 months, 2 years, who may never have set foot in an office and haven't been onboarded in the traditional sense. The one thing that has to be reliable is your employee data, and the shared services model is the right solution to optimize that, specifically to solve many of the challenges Naomi pointed out on the previous slide. So let's look at some of the arguments for consolidating global payroll within shared services. Reduction of error. Shared services is built on standardized processes, and shared services are experts in transactions. So error reduction is a key priority. Avoiding over and underpayments and simplifying diverse currency payments. Again, a lot of this is solved by process, discipline, and standardization. And the fact is that shared services are experts in this activity, what might otherwise be considered administrative or back office. That is the pure purpose of a shared services. Improving legal compliance and avoiding penalties. Again, getting it right. Standardizing global processes, check. Preserve confidential data with proper security protection. Again, this is crucial and critical, and this is something that shared services have been prioritizing for years. Keeping efficient records and offering self-service desks for employees and getting their issues resolved. Again, this is, I can't emphasize enough, the shared services model is built on reliable, standardized processing, and shared services have for decades now, the model has been around for 4 decades, been continuously improving the processes in their remit, the processes within their scope, to ensure that they are being delivered to an optimal level. And the fact that these are globally managed means there's also a standardization across countries. So let's move to the next slide.
Great. So I think we've set the case for why consolidate payroll. And this is one of my favorite sections of the report. And by the way, we have made the report available to you in the Resource Center. And this is one of those that I could see everybody kind of printing out and putting up at their desk. So let's go through this a little bit. But we've really here just emphasized the 5 steps. So if we look at increasing focus on long tail countries, many multinational companies fail to focus on the long tail due to the lower number of employees present. But it's of primary importance that companies increase their focus on these countries to improve HR operations by enhancing employees' accessibility, accuracy, and timely payment. Country-specific research, right? We need to make sure that all information regarding time zones, tax regulations, working hours, compensation are up to date for each country. And it's really important to understand the culture and background of employees before hiring them for a given project. And if we look at standardization, right, many payroll professionals feel their processes are not sufficiently standardized. Barbara mentioned it previously. Standardization is obviously one of, is the crux of shared services. It's what we are able to do so well when we can operate in this environment. So developing standardized and simplified methods of collection and record keeping and establishing robust procedures are absolutely key to managing payroll efficiency. We want to look at automation. We know that manual processes, they're time consuming, they're error prone, they slow down the operation. And talent today wants to work in an environment that's automated and they can continue to learn, right? So, and in payroll, automated solutions, they keep track of hours, costs, expenses, attendance, payments, everything. And this just results in simplified and well-organized global payroll. So automation, it saves money, it improves performance, it improves the employee experience, and is a must for payroll. And then, finally, we want to look at legal compliance. Any changes in payroll must reflect the laws and regulation of that country. Non-compliance can result in heavy penalties. So let's go and move to the next slide.
So the market has recognized the opportunity presented by the evolving technologies, let's call them all automation for argument's sake, but this has been something that's been building over the last decade. And the market has embraced many of these, as highlighted in one of the previous slides we showed you. Now, within HR services, for example, which is a pretty good indicator for the expectations of payroll, given the employee experience that we're mirroring there. So we see chatbots employed to support employee engagement. You can see here more than 1/3 of the shared services surveyed are currently using chatbots in the hire to retire process. We also see RPA heavily used to automate transactions and take the human element out of the loop and thereby minimize delays or errors. And we increasingly see intelligent document processing. We see here 35% are already using this. And intelligent document processing, IDP, is underpinned by digitized data. And its premise is that it supports a seamless workflow because the data in the documents has been structured and digitized from the start. Artificial intelligence, we have just under a quarter so far using AI. We've heard a lot about AI. We continue to read about AI. Its time is definitely coming, and we are certainly expecting both AI and machine learning to become stronger and stronger across all processes, not just the one that we're looking at here. Let's move to the next slide.
So we wanted to understand, what's your software development model? So the big trend is towards cloud. And we see that within HR as a comparison here, more than half the market has already embraced cloud. And that echoes what's happening in finance as well. It's interesting, when we look at payroll, we see that this trend is in an earlier stage, right? Only about a third of payroll services today have taken advantage of the cloud, so there's tremendous opportunity for growth. One of the challenges we mentioned earlier is that enterprises need cloud-based systems to access employee data from around the globe, and cloud gives you the opportunity to do that. So the market's moving in the right direction, but there is still plenty of space to grow. Next slide.
So what are the biggest pain points in payroll and HR solution stacks? Given the shift towards automation, and often these capabilities are stacked together, right? We have lots of capabilities, lots of different tools stacked. There are obviously some concerns that organizations are running up against. So what do they need to address, and what do they need to fix? Well, the most common is the lack of integration across internal platforms or departments. More than half of the respondents to this survey indicated that was a major problem that needs to be addressed. We have lack of self-service, too many issues for HR or payroll teams to deal with. Just over a third indicated this was a big concern. Not enough in-house technical expertise, difficulty porting clean and accurate data across. And then to a slightly lesser extent, we have administrative costs, poor planning, so technology doesn't match the business needs, and out-of-date functionalities, etc. Again, these are all issues that shared service or HR services and payroll are coming up against, and new technologies, state-of-the-art technologies, are able to address many of these and basically take the problems off your desks. Let's move to the next slide.
Great. Well, thank you so much. As we had mentioned in the beginning, payroll represents one of the largest spend for organizations. Shared services really is becoming the primary vehicle for driving enterprise-wide digitization. We have on the CEO, CFO's agenda, all eyes on shared services, and to be able to improve our people experience and be able to optimize our processes to the best that they can be. And shared services allows us to do that, and certainly payroll is well suited for shared services. And we do see so many already include this within shared services, and I think we have presented a little bit more of a case today as to why everybody should be looking at consolidating global payroll within shared services. I'd love to encourage all of you to read the report. It's loaded with great data, tips on how to successfully navigate this changing landscape. It has an in-depth interview with Neeyamo's leader, Vivek Khanna, who I had the pleasure of speaking with. It's got a great practitioner perspective from my good friend Sudhir Kumar, who's the head of people experience payroll at Nokia. I also wanted to let everyone know that the data in this presentation comes from SSON Analytics, which is one of the business units of the Shared Services and Outsourcing Network. It's our global data analytics center, and it's where Shared Services GBS HR professionals can actually go in and use the platform. One of our data tools is the metric benchmarker, and you can look at all types of metrics within HR, finance, payroll, and see how you are performing against your peers by industry and location. You can also see where payroll shared services organizations exist all around the globe, and you can compare all types of things within our city cube. So if you are interested in more information, more research, more analytics, I do encourage you to go to SSON Analytics, and we've placed a link to that also in the Resource Center. So it's a pleasure, as always, Barbara, presenting with you. I want to thank you again, Neeyamo, for the collaboration on this outstanding report, and also the invitation for us to speak at your event. If you've got any questions, we are here, so please do connect with us in the chat. And I hope everybody has a wonderful event.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.